1939. Some guy in Japan sends 50 custom piston rings to Toyota's quality control division. Toyota rejects 47 of them. That's a 94% failure rate. Most people would have given up right there, gone back to a normal job. Accepted they weren't built for entrepreneurship. This guy? He went back to school at 33 years old to figure out exactly why he failed. Fast forward to 1982. His company is selling more cars in America than Ford, more than Chevy, more than literally every single American car brand. And Harley-Davidson executives are in Washington, D.C., literally begging the government to save them from him. His name was Soichiro Honda. And this is the story of how he told both the Japanese and American governments to go fuck themselves and built a $45 billion empire anyway. But here's the part that makes this story absolutely insane. Honda didn't win because he was smarter than everyone else. He didn't have some revolutionary technology. He won because everyone in power was catastrophically wrong at the exact same time. And he was the only one actually paying attention to what people needed instead of what governments wanted. So, 1937. Honda quits his stable job at an auto repair shop to start his own company manufacturing piston rings. No engineering degree, no rich family backing him, no political connections, just pure confidence that he could figure it out. He submits those first pistons to Toyota. They reject almost all of them. It's completely humiliating. Everyone's watching him fail in real time. What does he do? He doesn't just work harder or hustle more. He literally enrolls as a part-time student and learns metallurgy from scratch. Spends 2 years traveling across Japan visiting steel factories, just absorbing knowledge from people who had zero incentive to help some failed entrepreneur. By 1941, his pistons finally work properly. Orders start flooding in from Toyota and other manufacturers. He's employing 2,000 people. At 35 years old, he's actually made it. He's built a legitimate industrial business from nothing. Then World War II deletes everything. And I mean everything. 1942, Japan's government straight up seizes control of Honda's company for the war effort. Toyota buys 45% equity in it. Honda gets demoted from president to senior managing director in his own business. He's watching strangers run the company he built. 1944, American B-29 bombers level his factory in a direct strike. 1945, the Nankai earthquake destroys whatever the bombs missed. Japan surrenders. Honda sells what's left of his company to Toyota for 450,000 yen, which is basically nothing. He's 39 years old. He's lost an entire decade of work twice. Once to his own failures, once to forces completely beyond his control. Most people would be absolutely done at this point. But here's where the story gets interesting. Post-war Japan is completely destroyed. Like the entire country is literal rubble. People are starving. There's no infrastructure, no functioning economy, nothing. And the American occupation government actively wants to keep it that way. General Douglas MacArthur is running Japan from Tokyo, and US policy is essentially keep Japan weak, make them dependent on America, and whatever you do, don't let them rebuild their industrial capacity. Honda can't even get gasoline to drive his car to the market to buy food for his family. So he starts wandering through military surplus yards, digging through leftover equipment. And he finds thousands of these tiny generator engines that the Japanese Imperial Army used to power field radios during the war. The Americans occupying Japan don't think these engines are valuable. They're considered junk. Honda buys them for almost nothing. And then he does something stupidly simple. He clips these engines to bicycles. Suddenly he's selling motorized bikes to factory workers who have absolutely no other way to get to their jobs. Is this technically legal under occupation regulations? Totally unclear. The American government is trying to control all motorized vehicles. Does Honda care even a little bit? Absolutely not. He's operating in this gray market where regulations haven't caught up yet, and he's solving a real problem for real people. 1946, Honda Technical Research Institute opens in his old warehouse with 12 employees. They're literally just attaching surplus military engines to bicycles all day. It's not glamorous. It's barely even a real business. But orders explode. Why? Because Honda accidentally solved the single biggest transportation problem in occupied Japan. How do ordinary people get to work when there's no public transit and no gasoline for cars? The answer nobody else thought of. Put a tiny motor on a bike. Here's the issue though. Those surplus engines run out by 1947. Honda has two choices: shut down the business or design his own engine from scratch. So he designs the Type A engine. It's the first product that actually has the Honda name on it. It works. Barely. But it works well enough to keep the business alive. 1948. Honda Motor Company officially incorporates. And this is where Honda makes probably the smartest decision of his entire life. He admits to himself that he's catastrophically bad at business. Like, he's genuinely incredible at engineering and product design, but he's terrible with money, terrible at marketing, terrible at operations, terrible at all the boring administrative stuff that actually keeps a company running. Most founders would just struggle through this and eventually fail. Instead, Honda brings in Takeo Fujisawa as a full equity partner. Not an employee, not a consultant, a partner with real power. Honda controls all product development and engineering decisions. Fujisawa controls literally everything else: finance, marketing, sales, operations, the whole business side. Complete separation of authority with zero overlap. This structural decision is exactly why Honda survives and grows when almost every other post-war Japanese startup collapses. 1949. Honda releases the Dream Model D motorcycle. It's too big, too heavy, completely impractical. Commercial failure. 1952. The Super Cub launches. It's light, efficient, affordable, and actually useful. It wins the Emperor's Prize. It's selling like crazy in Japan. And now Honda's thinking way bigger. He wants to go global. He wants to compete internationally. But here's what's happening politically in the background that completely changes everything. Japan's government realizes that manufacturing exports are literally the only viable path to economic recovery. The country has no natural resources, limited agriculture, and a massive population that needs jobs. So they create MITI, the Ministry of International Trade and Industry. MITI's entire job is to pick economic winners. They decide which companies get capital, which industries get protected from foreign competition, which sectors actually matter for Japan's future. Their strategy is focused on heavy industry: steel production, shipbuilding, chemicals, and eventually automobiles. MITI decides that Japan needs just a few massive car companies to compete with Detroit: Toyota, Nissan, maybe one or two others. That's it. That's the plan. Honda's not on this list. He's making motorcycles. MITI doesn't care about motorcycles at all. They're focused on the big strategic industries. This governmental neglect becomes Honda's massive competitive advantage. Because while Toyota and Nissan are getting government funding and government interference, and government bureaucrats telling them what to build, Honda's just making whatever he wants with zero political strings attached. No committee approvals, no ministry oversight, complete freedom. 1958, the Super Cub enters the American market. The price is $295. Harley-Davidson's cheapest motorcycle costs over $1,000. But the price difference isn't even the real weapon here. The marketing strategy is what destroys the competition. American motorcycles are exclusively marketed to outlaws, rebels, and counterculture types. Think Marlon Brando in The Wild One. Think Hell's Angels. Motorcycles in America mean danger and rebellion. Honda hires a UCLA student to create advertising. The tagline: "You meet the nicest people on a Honda." It's absolute psychological warfare. Honda's completely redefining what a motorcycle represents in the American consumer's mind. It's not about rebellion anymore. It's practical transportation for normal middle-class people, families, students, regular folks who just need to get around. By 1965, Honda has 63% of the entire US motorcycle market. Harley-Davidson is in complete freefall. Indian Motorcycle goes bankrupt. American manufacturers start screaming for government protection and tariffs. They don't get them yet because the US government is hyper-focused on the threat of Japanese cars, not motorcycles. This is a huge strategic mistake because Honda's using every single dollar of profit from motorcycle sales to fund the exact thing that Japan's own government explicitly told him not to do: build automobiles. 1963. Honda publicly announces he's entering the automotive market. MITI completely loses their minds. Japanese government officials directly tell Honda, "Japan doesn't need another car manufacturer. We already have Toyota. We already have Nissan. You're fragmenting the industry. You're wasting national resources. Stop immediately." This isn't a polite suggestion from some bureaucrat. MITI has actual legal authority to block industrial investments they consider inefficient or contrary to national economic planning. Honda just tells them no. Think about how insane this decision is. The Japanese government, which controls banking, capital allocation, export licenses, basically everything, directly orders you to stay in your lane, and you just refuse. Why would anyone do this? Because Honda sees something that MIT's central planners are completely blind to. MIT wants to build standard family sedans at massive scale to directly compete with Detroit's model. They want economies of scale, predictability, and safety. They're trying to copy the American playbook. Honda wants to build small, fuel-efficient, performance-focused cars that American and European consumers don't even know they want yet. He's playing a completely different game. 1963, Honda releases the T360 mini truck, total commercial flop. 1964, the S500 sports car. It's gorgeous, fast, and incredibly rare. Almost nobody buys it. MIT's response is basically, see, we told you. You don't understand the automobile market, just stick to motorcycles. Honda's response, cool, watch this. Instead of quitting cars, Honda does exactly what worked with motorcycles. He takes his cars racing. 1964, Honda enters Formula One with the RA271. The car is slow, unreliable, and embarrassing. It's a disaster. 1965, the RA272 wins the Mexican Grand Prix. Here's what Honda understood that MIT's bureaucrats completely missed. Racing isn't just marketing or brand building. It's public research and development. Every single time Ferrari sets a benchmark, or McLaren introduces an innovation, or Lotus does something clever, Honda's engineers reverse engineer it. They're learning in public faster than companies that develop everything in secret private facilities. The racetrack becomes a testing ground where Honda can study his competitors' solutions in real time and iterate faster than anyone else. But despite all this racing success, Honda's actual car sales in Japan still suck. Toyota and Nissan are absolutely destroying him in the domestic market. He's bleeding money on the automotive division. Then, 1973 happens. The oil crisis. OPEC cuts production in response to U.S. support for Israel in the Yom Kippur War. Oil prices quadruple basically overnight. Gas stations across America run completely dry. People are waiting in lines for literally hours just to fill up their tanks. Detroit's entire strategy has been building massive cars. Ford LTDs, Chevrolet Impalas, boats on wheels that get maybe 10 miles per gallon. Suddenly, these vehicles are completely unsellable. Honda releases the Civic in 1972, one full year before the crisis hits. Timing? Luck? Strategic foresight? Honestly, doesn't matter at this point. The Civic has this CVCC engine technology, compound vortex-controlled combustion. It gets 40 miles per gallon while meeting all emission standards without even needing a catalytic converter. American cars are struggling to get 15 miles per gallon even with catalytic converters. The Civic isn't just cheaper to buy up front, it's massively cheaper to own and operate. During a fuel crisis where people are genuinely worried about being able to afford driving to work, that economic advantage is absolutely everything. By 1975, the Honda Civic is outselling multiple established American car models. Detroit completely freaks out. Auto executives lobby Washington hard. They demand protection from Japanese imports. 1981. They finally get voluntary export restraints. Japan agrees to limit the number of cars they'll export to America. Honda's response? Build factories in Ohio. 1982. Honda opens full manufacturing in Marysville, Ohio. They're the first Japanese automaker to actually produce cars on American soil. This move is strategically genius. It completely bypasses trade restrictions. It creates thousands of American jobs, which destroys the political argument for tariffs. And it lets Honda avoid currency exchange rate risks entirely. Same year, 1982, the Honda Accord becomes the best-selling car in America. Not the best-selling Japanese car, not the best-selling import, the best-selling car, period. Outselling Ford, GM, Chrysler, everyone. A company that literally didn't exist in the automobile market 20 years earlier is now beating every single legacy American manufacturer. What the hell happened? 3 structural failures converged at the exact same moment. 1. American automakers had been protected by tariffs and union contracts for so long that they completely stopped innovating. They assumed cheap gasoline would last forever and never prepared for any other scenario. 2. MIT's industrial policy was designed to fight the last war. They wanted to create Japanese versions of Ford. They never imagined a motorcycle company could just leapfrog directly into cars. 3. Honda refused to play by anyone's rules. Not Japan's government, not America's expectations, not the market's conventions. The political aftermath is absolutely brutal. 1982, Harley-Davidson finally convinces Reagan to impose 45% tariffs on heavyweight motorcycles over 700 cubic centimeters. But it's way too late. Honda already dominates the lightweight and middleweight categories. The tariff doesn't even touch their core business. And here's the ironic twist. Harley actually uses this protection period to completely restructure, fix their quality control issues, and become genuinely competitive again. By 1987, Harley asks Reagan to remove the tariffs early because they don't need protection anymore. They've fixed their problems. But Detroit? The damage is permanent. By 1990, Honda is the third largest car company in the entire world. They've launched the luxury Acura brand. They're building private jets, robotics, marine engines, power equipment. They're everywhere. Honda himself retired in 1973. He died in 1991. He never saw the full scope of the empire he built. His final quote, "Looking back on my work, I feel that I was doing nothing more than mistakes, blunders, and serious omissions. But I am proud of the achievements. Although I made one mistake after another, my failures never occurred for the same reason twice." Translation: he learned and iterated faster than his competitors could even plan. Today, Honda's market cap sits around $45 billion. They're navigating the EV transition. They're betting huge on hydrogen fuel cell technology while everyone else chases Tesla's battery strategy. History suggests that betting against Honda's engineering judgment is generally a terrible idea. But here's the actual transferable lesson from all of this. Honda won because he operated in the gap between what governments planned and what people actually needed. I wanted consolidated national champions. Ordinary people wanted cheap, reliable transportation. Detroit wanted to protect the status quo and keep building the same cars forever. Consumers wanted fuel economy and reliability. US trade policy tried to block Japanese manufacturing, but policymakers focused on the wrong products at exactly the wrong time. Honda understood something brutal that most people miss. Governments are always fighting the last war. They're always optimizing for yesterday's problem. The gap between what bureaucrats plan and what consumers actually want to buy is exactly where fortunes get made. Right now, governments worldwide are picking winners in EVs. They're pouring billions into battery technology and charging infrastructure. Everyone's following the same obvious playbook. Which company is ignoring all of that and quietly building what people will actually want in 10 years? That's where the next Honda is hiding right now. The pattern repeats every generation. Governments pick the obvious play. They protect the incumbents. Everyone follows the same centralized plan. And then some random outsider shows up, ignores all the rules, and takes everything. Honda did it to Harley. Did it to Detroit. Did it to his own government's economic planning. Who's doing it right now while everyone's obsessed with Tesla and EVs? That's the real question worth asking.